What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 1, Chapter 1, Stranger in a Strange Land. So I did look it up. This is the only season of Boba Fett that's going to be happening, as far as I can tell, at least the Book of Boba Fett. I looked it up on IMDb, I looked it up online, and I didn't look too hard into it, obviously, because I didn't want any spoilers, but it seems like they don't plan on doing a Season 2 of this, so I'm not going to worry about saying Season 1 and all of that. It's nice to know. Unlike some of the other shows that I've done recently, it's nice to know it's like, okay, season 1 of this, that's the only season. We're done. But anyways, going into this, I wasn't really sure what to expect. And honestly, out of all the Star Wars shows that I was going to do, this one was probably the least... What's the word I'm looking for? It was the least excited, I guess, out of all of them that I was feeling. And two reasons for that. First of all, the reactions were not really much of anything when it came to this show. Like, for Mandalorian, a lot of great reactions. For Ahsoka, a lot of great reactions. For Kenobi, a lot of great reactions. I was seeing a lot of good reactions online, or great. Boba Fett, I didn't see any, hardly. I didn't see any good, I didn't see any bad. So I feel like this is going to be a very mid season. And because of that, it makes it hard to do a review series for, because it's hard to really talk about something that's not great and not awful and make it entertaining. It's just, yeah, this was pretty good or this was pretty bad, and that's kind of it. So that is one reason. The other reason is I'm not really somebody who was excited to see more Boba Fett. I know there are a lot of fans of him out there, and I know a lot of that comes from stuff that I have not read or looked into. I can't remember if it's fan fiction or if it was official works that were done about Boba Fett that then later on became non-canon. But I just know him from the movies, and from what I saw from the movies, he's not that interesting. You know, he looks kind of badass at the end of Empire Strikes Back, and then the beginning of the sixth one, he's just eaten by a sarlacc, and that's kind of it for him. And gone out in probably the goofiest way possible, too. So, yeah, he was a character that so many people were excited to see more of. I was not one of those people, but I understand why people are excited. I understand that there are elements of his character. He is a cool looking character. I could see why people would be excited to see more of him. So I was willing to put aside my feelings of about the character and go, okay, so what is this show going to give me? So far in this first episode, I kind of feel like his appearances in The Mandalorian were more exciting to me. A lot of that is I don't really know what they plan to do with this show. You know, we're getting a lot of flashback in this one, so clearly they're tying in those elements at the end of Return of the Jedi. What happened to Boba Fett? Okay, well, he was in the Sarlacc, so how did he get out of there? How did he survive that? Okay, well, he burned his way out. Cool. So what happened after that? Well, now he's picked up by the Tusken Raiders, and now he's earned their respect, and I guess they're probably going to train him to fight or something. I don't know. It feels like they're more focused on, let's show how Boba Fett got from inside the Sarlacc to where he is now. The stuff that's going on now, it feels kind of pointless to me. Like, he's trying to essentially take over Jabba the Hutt's position on Tatooine, where he's essentially the crime lord that everybody looks up to and respects and gives him tribute and all that. And he's trying to do it his own way. He doesn't want to be carried around like Jabba was. He wants to walk on his own 2 feet. But then people are trying to take that power from him. There's this mayor who sent his little squirrely dude to go in and say, oh, no, we're not going to pay you tribute, but you should pay us. And then there are assassins that show up that I'm assuming are going to be tied into this mayor character. I don't know. It all feels kind of uneventful to me. Like, I don't want to see Boba Fett learning how to be a better crime lord. Like, that just doesn't sound that exciting to me. It feels very bland for his type of character. I would love to see him going around, maybe taking on bounties, maybe, you know, kind of... I know it would be very similar to what they did with Mandalorian at the beginning of his story and all of that, but I still want to see him doing more action-based stuff. And it feels like they're not really giving us much of that at the moment. There's very few action scenes in this first one. The assassin attack, it was kind of goofy in a way. Like, all these guys just show up with these laser shields and start poking them with electric sticks. And that's most of the battle until these 2 guards show up and take a couple of the assassins out, and then they can fight back. And even then, they fight back for a few minutes, do a couple of damage, or do a couple of... What's the word? God, I'm losing my thought right now. They essentially take down a couple of the guys, and then the rest of the assassins run away. Fennec goes and captures one of them, and that's all that really happens. It wasn't super action based or super exciting. It felt kind of slow and boring. And then all the stuff in the flashback, the fighting we see there, I mean, that seemed kind of slow and boring too. With him taking on the dog, and then he gets captured anyway by this one fighter in the Tuscan village that just takes him down super easily. And then this one little kid takes him out, and then sand creature attacks, and he manages to choke it with a chain. And I don't know, we've seen a lot of this before, and I feel like we've seen it done better before. Like, I thought Leia choking Jabba out was more exciting than watching Boba choke out a sand creature. Maybe some of that is because of what Leia was wearing at the time, but I don't know. I feel like there's just not a whole lot of intrigue right now for me. So maybe it'll get more interesting as we go along. Maybe once they start cutting the flashbacks down a bit more, it'll be more interesting as well. But for the moment, it's just... I'm sitting here going, okay, so what is this show going to give me? What is this all going to be about? Is this just going to be about Boba rising to power as a crime lord? And if so, why is that something I want to watch? Because you shouldn't necessarily want to root for a crime lord. Like Mandalorian, his whole story, yes, he's a bounty hunter. He's kind of ruthless, but he's got a heart of gold, as you can tell whenever they introduce Grogu and show that he's willing to protect him. With Boba, I don't really see what is redeeming about him. It feels like they're almost hoping that whole fan base for Boba is enough to carry this show through and be like, okay, well, we're going to give you more Boba. You guys want to see that, right? And for people like me that are mixed on the character, I'm not really going to just watch this show and be excited just for that. You got to give me something else. So we'll see where they decide to go with it from here. But that's about it for this first episode. So on to the next one. I'll see you there. And now episode 2, chapter 2, The Tribes of Tatooine. So yeah, I mean, we really delved full force back into the flashback in this episode, because all we get from the present day is we see the Hutts, the twins, I guess, cousins of Jabba, show up, and they're like, hey, this is ours. And he's like, no, it's mine. And they're like, no, it's ours. We'll kill you. He's like, all right, well, you got to do that to get your stuff. So yeah, come on, try to kill me then. And that's basically all that happens. Like, that's not that interesting. I'm curious to see if there will be some sort of power struggle, but it's not really all that interesting. They have what do they call Wookiee? They have a Wookiee that apparently looks all big and badass, so I'm sure he and Boba will fight each other at some point. But outside of that, I mean, do you really want to see Boba Fett going up against 2 big Hutts? Not really. I mean, the Hutts for me have never really been that intimidating. They've been more comedic villains, in my opinion. So having them be seemingly the main threat, yes, they can hire whoever to try to kill Boba. That's still not that interesting as Boba taking on an actual threatening opponent, not 2 big blobs. So, yeah, that's not that interesting. But after that first scene, we delve right back into the flashbacks, and that's the rest of the episode. And first of all, we already kind of know where it's all leading. We know he's going to gain the respect of the Tusken Raiders because he was dressed in similar garb when we first saw him in The Mandalorian. So we know he's going to gain their respect. We know they're going to train him a bit. And that's all we really need to know. And yet they flesh out this whole backstory as if it's really intriguing dilemma. Like, ooh, the Tusken Raiders are being shot at by this train, and there's these bad people that he steals the bikes from, and then he brings the bikes back, teaches them how to ride the bikes, and then they go and stop this train and basically make a deal with these people to show, hey, the Tusken Raiders, they are more than just raiders, okay? They're civilized. We already kind of got that in The Mandalorian. Why do we need to spend more time on it here in the book of Boba Fett? Like, that whole 2 episodes... Was that 1 or 2 episodes in The Mandalorian? I don't remember now. But that whole storyline where we see Raylan Givens in space, we see his whole town so fearful of them, but then they come to realize, hey, maybe they're not as uncivilized as you think. Maybe they actually do have some sort of society, I guess, social cues. I don't know. They're not just barbarians. They actually are people too that are trying to live. And so the common threat that you guys face, that brings them together and teaches them to maybe live with each other a little. Like we already covered that on The Mandalorian, and here it feels like it's showing it from their side almost. Like, hey, we got to fight back because these people are just shooting us for no reason. And why is all this interesting? And again, because it's in a flashback too, I don't really feel like I'm getting any new information out of this. I feel like this is all stuff that we kind of could figure out if you've already seen The Mandalorian. And I guess maybe some people might watch this without watching The Mandalorian, but I don't think that's the case. I think most people know that you should probably watch these in the order of which they were released if you want to make sure that you're not missing any backstory. So I don't really understand this episode at all. I don't understand why they felt it was necessary to spend all this time on it. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's something in there that wasn't already known to us that I completely missed. But as far as I can tell, everything they showed me is stuff I could already kind of piece together based on what we saw in the first episode, and then also where we saw Boba Fett in The Mandalorian as well. So, I don't know. It just seems very odd. On top of that, the action in the show is pretty weak. First of all, seeing him fight without the helmet, they probably need to keep that to a minimum because his facial expressions when he's fighting is kind of goofy looking. It makes me kind of laugh when I'm watching him, like his big weird facial expression. I don't really understand what he's doing with it. It looks like he's in the middle of taking a crap while he's fighting. But yeah, the choreographing on the fights, it seems very... I know sometimes you go slow and then they'll speed it up, but this one it feels like they're almost going too fast. So in the moments where they do go a bit slower and they feel like it needs to speed up a little bit, they speed it up and you can tell there's a speed. Like he's going from here to here to here to here, and then all of a sudden he does this. And you can just tell there's a quick, like they just sped up the footage for about 2 seconds, and it looks very awkward when they do it. So I don't know. Overall, the fighting in the show is really not gripping me. It's not getting me excited to see more. And that's a shame because I feel like they did a better job in The Mandalorian of really making it look clean and I don't know the right word for it, but fluid, I guess would be a good term to use. So yeah, I'm not really impressed with the show too far, and I'm trying not to let, again, my own personal thoughts of about Boba Fett. I'm trying not to let that affect me here. I'm trying to go into this with an open mind and going, hey, let's see what this show's got to offer. And so far, it's not really offering me much. From somebody who is a Star Wars fan, is not necessarily a deep lore Star Wars fan, but someone who enjoys them and enjoys watching and seeing what they're going to come out with next, I'm not really getting invested in the show at all. Because you're spending way too much time in the flashbacks and not enough time on actually telling a new story. You're telling us a story that we could already kind of piece together, and probably, I mean, it would take just a few flashbacks here and there throughout the season. And I'm really worried that we're going to spend more time on the flashbacks because, I mean, obviously he doesn't have his armor yet. So are we going to go through the whole thing of him tracking down, all right, what happened to the Jawas that took my armor? Okay, well, they sold him to a guy. All right, well, let's find the guy that had that armor. And now we got to go to that town where we're going to see, what was his actual name? Cobb Vanth, I think. But Timothy Oliphant's character, we're going to go to that village, and then we're going to find out, oh yeah, there's a Mandalorian here, and he took that armor, so then we're going to track down that Mandalorian and find out what... And then we're going to get back to what we saw in the Mandalorian. Are we going through all of that? Are we going to see when he picks up Fennec at some point? Like, what led him to that moment? I don't know. But I'm worried that that's what's going to happen, is that we're going to spend a lot of this series basically filling in the gaps between Return of the Jedi and where we are in the present day. And I don't feel like we need that much time. I feel like you could have explained a lot of that in quick flashbacks in the first episode, and then you focus your rest of the season on telling this new story of seemingly Boba Fett essentially coming to power in Tatooine. And maybe part of it is he is doing it a bit nicer, a bit more, I guess, what's Charitable? No. There's a term for it. Benevolent, I guess. He's a crime lord, but he's not the type of crime lord that's just going to torture people or kill people willy-nilly. Like, he actually wants to try to give people the chance to live first. So maybe that's why they want to paint him as the good guy, and to let us cheer for somebody that's about to become a crime lord. I don't know. It still feels like a weak premise, but at least that would be something new. It would not be flashbacks that, again, we kind of already can piece together what happened. So, anyways, that's about it for this episode. On to the third one. I'll see you guys there. And now, episode 3, The Streets of Mos Espa. So, tone down the flashbacks just a little bit. The little bit of flashback we did get still feels kind of pointless, because apparently he went to go talk to the people about the Tusken Raiders and making a deal and all that, and he comes back and they're all dead. So, whoa, we spent all that time just for all those Tusken Raiders to die anyway. Love that. The stuff in the present is also kind of underwhelming. That little group of young guns or whatever, the ones that are like modifying their body with robot parts, not really that interesting. They just feel like they're kind of there, and honestly, they're the type of characters that I'm not really a big fan of, because they seem like oh yeah, we're young and we're rebels and we're so cool because we don't listen to authority. We do our own thing. They're very cliche so far, and it feels like we're getting a lot of focus on them. I kind of would prefer that Boba does a lot of his own fighting, but it feels like he's not. It feels like we're going to be seeing them do a lot of the fighting for him. So, I don't know. I'm not a fan of their characters so far. I feel like they're, like I said, very cliche, and not cliches that I'm a fan of either. The whole chase scene was really underwhelming. I mean, the CGI on it was not great. There are more of those really sudden speed up moments that don't look good at all and look very amateur, if I'm being honest. The facial expressions of everybody when they're on the speeders and stuff, really goofy. Like, you got the one guy who's already kind of a goofy character that works for the mayor. His facial expressions are all the entire time with his head almost like a little, I don't even know how to describe it. It's not bobblehead, but it feels like it's on some sort of like animatronic device. And then the look of everybody on the speeder, the young guns, like they're all trying to look badass, but instead they look, I don't know. It looks like, again, amateur music video is what comes to mind. And the only reason I'm thinking that is just in my head I'm picturing some young artist, and they put together a music video, and they don't really have a big budget, so they pretend like they're on like water skis, and they're just like like that is what comes to mind when I'm watching this. And I shouldn't be feeling that way when you think about, this is Disney. This is Disney made, and it feels like I'm watching an amateur production in all of this. I'm really surprised, and I know it's a TV show, so I shouldn't expect the budget to be super high or anything, but I still expect it to be quality, and I don't really see much quality in all of this. I feel like it's stuff that smaller production companies could probably do better, and I don't really expect that out of Disney. I mean, well, I guess to be fair, not like they've been really pushing the envelope recently with, you look at the recent Disney movies, let's just rehash the old ones. Look at the Marvel movies, we'll use easy, low-budget CGI for most of them, and possibly some AI writers, because, yeah, to be fair, I guess they have been getting a little bit more lazy, but I don't know, it's really weird, because I have heard some decent stuff about the more recent Star Wars, like Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Andor, Kenobi. I'm hearing good stuff about that, so I would expect there to be some quality production when it comes to the Book of Boba Fett, and I'm not really seeing it. It's not all terrible, it's just not that same standard that I feel like I've come to expect out of Star Wars properties. So as far as the story is concerned, though, I mean, it's still not that interesting to me. Apparently the Hutts are not the ones that ordered the assassination attempt. Possibly, the mayor's seemingly involved somehow. Which, okay, yeah. So a politician lied. Big shocker there. There's some war coming now where everybody's going to be fighting. I don't really understand why everybody is fighting for control of Mos Espa to begin with. I mean, is there really that much money there? Because unless I've missed something, I don't really see how there's a lot of money. Even the Hutts are like, yeah, I mean, Tatooine, that's a dead planet. We don't really want to go to war over this. So why is somebody willing to go to war with Boba Fett over this? I don't know. It's a little confusing. So yeah, all in all, I'm not really getting into this show so far. I feel like I'm kind of bored with it. I feel like it's kind of a time waster at this moment. And for a Star Wars series to feel that way, I feel like is a bit of a disservice. And especially considering the fact that Boba Fett is such a beloved character, you would think they would want to put time and effort into it, but instead it feels more like I said earlier, they just, hey, it's Boba Fett. We're just going to throw his name up there, and because people love Boba Fett, they're going to watch it, right? Like, that's how that works. We don't have to put hardly any effort into any of this at all. It's Boba Fett, guys. Don't you want to see him? That's kind of how it feels. And I'm disappointed with that. Because I mean, hell, watching Rebels, watching Bad Batch, Clone Wars, I mean, that's a kid's show. And all three of those shows feel like they put a lot more effort and thought into their writing, into their character development, into the animation compared to CGI here. It feels like there's just so much more thought put into that. And that's a show for kids. All three of them are more a show for kids. So why can they not put that same level of effort into the Book of Boba Fett? Yeah. So that's just my opinion, though. Maybe everybody else had different thoughts, so let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these first 3 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Book of Boba Fett reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.